After taking over PokerStars with his brother Ofer Bezov, an Israeli-Canadian businessman got into a business argument with a Belarus online gambling company. The Belarus now claim in a lawsuit filed in Israel that Bezov and his associates blackmailed them, hacked their phones, published and produced defamation content against them, and produced over 1,000 blackmail videos. Let's explore behind the scenes of the online gambling world, where the big money is constantly flowing, but the vicious internal wars are unstoppable. Ivan Montik opened the door of his home in Berlin on a cold morning in February 2021 and received a package from an Amazon courier waiting for him in front door of his house. Montik, the founder and the CEO of PokerStars, a Belarus software company that provides services to gambling sites, was surprised. He did not remember ordering anything. He opened the package and saw an alarm clock with a note saying, "This is only the beginning. Tick-tock." The package sender chose to remain anonymous, but Montik had a suspicion on a sender's identity. He estimated that this was the same person that not long ago launched a huge global blackmailing campaign against him. Since October 2020, about 1,000 anonymous videos have been circulated on YouTube and Facebook, accusing Montik and his partners at PokerStars of fraud, money laundering, and money theft from customers. Many of the videos showed themselves as investigative news programs and allegedly exposed bad acts in which PokerStars were involved. These creators of these videos were creative and cruel. Among other things, it was alleged that one Montik's partner was involved in the assassination of the Bulgarian journalist in 2018 because she was about to expose his acts of fraud. Other videos allege that the FBI and Interpol are conducting an investigation against PokerStars. And it was not just videos. More than 300 websites published these stories. Some even impersonated to be the website of the PokerStars itself. To intensify the harm, the videos and links to the sites were distributed directly to PokerStars employees. Later, some of the employees became targets themselves and received threatening messages, along with their photos that allegedly linked them to criminal acts related to the company. Then the messages got even more personal. You're likely to encounter a lot of bad surprises. An in-depth investigation reveals your involvement in money laundering and fraud. 2. We have your intimate photos with young women you paid for. One of the messages sent to Montik read, "Do you think you will fuck up Jews? In the Holocaust, the Belarus killed 350,000 Jews, and that did not help them. We promise that you will cry about what you did." And not just the Holocaust. The distributors of the threatening campaign signed some of threats under the name Israeli intelligence. Some of the messages mentioned the Israeli offensive cyber company's NSO without its knowledge and claimed that the largest cyber company in Israel can penetrate into phones like it's a piece of cake. But to understand the connection of the affair to Israel and Israelis, we don't need to go through NSO or the Israel Intelligence Unit. You can go to the Tel Aviv District Court, where the last month Montik and two PokerStars partners, Dmitry Yekao and Pavel Kashuba, filed a lawsuit that unfolds hair-raising facts against 3 Israelis. According to statements of claim, 2 of them shadow men of the person being accused, Ofer Bezov. Ofer Bezov, 52, a Canadian-Israeli Jew living in Montreal, operates under the radar and is almost unrecognized in Israel or Canada, despite a history of tremendous activity in the online gambling world. He also invests in Israeli startups and is a regular contributor to the Jewish community in his hometown in Canada. Ofer and his brother David Bezov, 41, who is usually at the forefront, jointly controlled PokerStars, the world's largest online poker site, which they bought from Canadian Jewish Sheinberg family a decade ago for $5 billion. The current lawsuit filed through attorney Yaakov Enoch provides a rare glimpse into the activities of Bezov brothers and attributes to Ofer Bezov and his associates responsibility for a criminal defamation campaign that resulted in serious harm to many people's lives. Videos and websites that show the false information about PokerStars alleged, among other things, that the FBI and Interpol were conducting an investigation against its senior executives and that the company's business partners was involved in the assassination of a journalist who was about to expose his crimes. Increasingly threatening messages also soon began to arrive, from "we have exposed your involvement in money laundering and fraud" to "we have your intimate pictures with a prostitute." Yosef and Sarah Bezov, an Orthodox Jewish couple from Georgia, immigrated to Israel with their son Ofer in the early 1970s. They settled in Haifa, where they had 4 more children. In the 1980s, the couple decided to emigrate to Montreal, where they gave birth to another daughter. During their first years in Canada, they lived in poverty and needed the support of Jewish community. Ofer later said that the heads of the Chabad Yeshiva took him under the wing and let him live there for free for 6 years, and that one of his rabbis brought him sandwiches from home every day. Ofer and his brother David, the youngest of the boys, stood out from a young age as very talented but also very problematic figures. In the 1990s, Ofer was convicted of possession of cocaine in Canada, and in the United States of telemarketing scam offers to naive pensioners, an offense for which he paid a large fine. David, who possessed exceptional mathematics skills, dropped out of school, was thrown out of the house, and lived in parks, but took matters into his own hands, reconciled with his parents, and got working in a high-tech industry, first opening a small computer store, then marketing computers to large and larger customers, and later founding Amaya, which developed electronic poker tables and sold them to casinos and cruise ships. In 2010, he issued the company on the Canadian Stock Exchange, and in 2012, also on NASDAQ. But even though David served in Amaya's face, and even though he was officially the largest shareholder in it, the living and actually controlling spirit of the company was his brother, Ofer. The lawsuit alleged based on publications abroad and legal materials, and acted behind scenes due to his past large criminal record. The company's success made a lot of money to Bezovs, and they began to invest in it, and also to contribute to Jewish community, and especially to Chabad. In the Canadian Jewish community, people said that they are very modest people who stay away from exposure and do things quietly. Even when David headed the largest company in the world in its field, he maintained modesty. Soon, Amaya began to soar. In 2012, it acquired the Cadillac Jack slot machine company, and in 2015, sold it for double the price. It was just the appetizer. In June 2014, the Bezos stunned the global gambling and gaming industry when they acquired from the Shinberg family, also an Israeli family who immigrated to Canada in 1980s, the PokerStars and the Full Tilt Poker gambling sites. This move has made Amaya the world's largest online gambling platform. PokerStars was then, and still is, the largest site in the field, with 89 million users and revenue of more than $1 billion a year. All this goodness was bought by Amaya, an almost unrecognizable company whose revenues a few years earlier amounted to a few $1 million. The payment of $4.9 billion was raised mostly from a line of funds and banks led by Blackstone. The Bezos themselves were hardly required to put their own money in a deal. While Ofer makes sure to stay behind the scenes, David, who served as CEO and chairman of Maya, December 2014, David Bezos was portrayed as the king of poker and online gambling, and as dealing with the titans like Sheldon Adelson. And his business success was described as a saga of impudence, luck, and perseverance. David himself, who was asked in an article about a PokerStars deal, said that it was a big deal, but it's just getting started. But the big deal took a different turn that month, when IMF investigators, the Quebec Financial Regulatory Authority, raided Amaya's office. Authorities' interest in Bezos has arisen both in the face of speculations about the sources of capital used by Amaya to buy PokerStars, and in the face of lively movements in Amaya stocks on the eve of the giant acquisition, which raised suspicions about the use of inside information. When the IMF raided Amaya's offices, David Bezov portrayed businesses as usual and said he expected such an investigation in light of the company's stock rise. But in 2016, suspicions grew that the business was really unusual when the famous Panama Papers were unveiled, more than 11 million documents from a large Panama law firm, which contained information on over 200,000 offshore companies, many of which served as tax havens. According to publications, the investigators discovered between the documents a secret agreement between Ofer and David Bezov, according to which David was allegedly appointed as a shadow man on Ofer's behalf to hold the controlling shares in Amaya. It is also alleged that David passed on information to Ofer about mergers and acquisitions of Amaya, and Ofer passed this information on to his business partners in favor of trading in Amaya shares. According to the suspicion, in this way, profits of about $1.5 million were generated. But despite the suspicion, Ofer remained out of the legal proceedings. The IMF has filed an indictment only against David Bezov and the other non-family defendants for dealing on the basis of inside information in market manipulation in what has been called the largest inside information affair in Canadian history. David denied the suspicions, but in the face of diving Amaya stock, was forced to resign as the chairman and CEO of the company. In December 2016, he tried to buy control of Amaya through funding from a number of unrecognized entities. In 2017, he sold his holdings to the company in several tranches for hundreds of millions of dollars. Amaya, in an effort to shake off the affair, rebranded in August 2017, changing its name to the Stars Group in 2019. 2 years after the Bezos took the different path, it was sold for $6 billion to the Irish company, Flutter Entertainment, now the world's largest online gambling company. In the end, the criminal case against David Bezos unexpectedly collapsed in 2018. After it became clear that the prosecution had mistakenly sent some 300,000 confidential documents to his lawyers. They took advantage of the malfunction and claimed that it harmed the proceedings, and the court accepted their claim and closed the case without examining the charges against David. According to the indictment, most of David's part in the story ends here, and the plot shifts to his brother Ofer and to the three Belarusians mentioned in his art: Ivan Montik, Dmitry Ikao, Revaz Megrelshvili, and Albert Elishko. According to the lawsuit, Montik and Ikao met with Ofer and his friends, and in April 2019 agreed with them on their investment in Be-Free. Ofer and his friends will buy 60% of the company for 21 million euros. The remaining 40% will be held by Montik and Ikao. Bezov and his friends needed to pay the money according to the deal. But as in the Amaya deal and the attempt to take it over again, a creative solution was found here as well. According to the indictment, Bezov and the Israelis contacted a Jewish Russian businessman named Roland Jeshu, who established a company with Megrelshvili called Capital, which was registered in the British Virgin Islands. Yashau is registered as the owner of a third of the company's shares, and in return provided the company with a loan of almost all the money, which was used to invest in Be-Free. Meaning, Ofer and his friends are left with only 1 million euros to pay from their own pockets to make the Be-Free deal. An almost free entire ticket into Be-Free, as the lawsuit claims. Capital's remaining two-thirds remains in Megrelshvili's, but prosecutors claim Megrelshvili holds them in trust for Bezov and Elishko, who sought to hide their involvement because of their criminal past, and that, in a practice, the Bezos was leaving spirit behind Capital's activities. As proof, the Belarusians presented an agreement to provide a personal guarantee from Bezov, Elishko, and Megarashvili to Yishav, which constitutes security for the repayment of the loan, and allegedly links Bezov to the story. Another fingerprint of Bezov is also evident in the Megarashvili himself, filled in another proceeding, in which he mentioned Bezov and Elishko as those who were his business partners in the investment deal in B3. In any case, Capital did not meet the repayments of the loan to Yisho and Bezov, and his friends breached the personal guarantee agreement. When Yisho went to court in Virgin Islands and filed for liquidation, Bezov and his friends claimed they had not repaid the loan due to a problem they discovered in activities of their partners from SoftSwiss. To back up this claim, Megarashvili presented the court with telegram message from Kashuba's phone. When the astonished judge demanded to know how such personal material was obtained, another Pandora's box was opened. Megarashvili reported in an affidavit to the court that a Capital had contracted with a Ukrainian Cyberattack company called TCC, which handed over more than 8,000 files from Kashuba's phones, including messages, photos, emails, documents, contracts, financial statements, and confidential documents of SoftSwiss. All were obtained criminally. The judge was in shock. Hacking into someone's computer or server is a serious inconvenience, he wrote in his decision, stating that conspiracy allegations against the Belarus were not a share of the truth. Accordingly, the court ordered the liquidation of Capital to repay the debt to Yishu. One would have expected the story to end here. But the Belarusians claim in their current lawsuit that already, while the viral in the Virgin Islands was being conducted, Bezov and his friends embarked on a violent smear campaign against Belarusians in an attempt to force them to withdraw. The first sign of what was to come was a letter sent by Megarashvili to Montique at the end of April 2020, in which he demanded to be paid tens of millions of euros, which he claimed the people of SoftSwiss owned him. Megarashvili threatened to sue the Belarus, but did not stop there. According to the indictment, he threatened to take extreme measures, warning that he intended to turn the financial entities and business partners of Montique and the rest of the Belarusians to humiliate them. At the same time, Yashiv also received a message on his cell phone. You know what you need to do and who you need to call. Otherwise, this marathon will end badly for you and your partners. Indeed, a few months later, Megarashvili did send letters to SoftSwiss executives' business partners, describing the alleged conspiracy carried out by them, claiming that a criminal investigation was being conducted against them and against him on suspicion of money laundering, and urged recipients to stop any business with them. According to the lawsuit, it did not end there. Megarashvili was already holding personal and sensitive information that was extracted from Kashuba's phone. A similar burglary was also done to Yishav's phone. Another failed attempt at the burglary was on Montique's phone. Soon, it was alleged attackers began to directly contact the contacts stored on Kashuba's and Yashiv phones and send them slander on the Belarusians via anonymous text messages and phone calls from blocked numbers. To give further validity to accusations or threats, their distributions tried to tie them to the world of Israel intelligence. Some of the threats sent to Belarus were allegedly signed by Israeli intelligence. We have all information necessary to expose your actions, warns such messages. Urgently pay your debt to the people you have deceived. You do not mess with us. Other messages mentioned the Israeli company's NSO and warned that it could easily break into private emails and WhatsApp and Telegram messages for evidence. These messages were accompanied by B3 reports or photos of Kashuba's messages. After the attackers sent SoftSwiss employees videos defaming the company's owners, they began to intimidate the employers themselves. An Instagram account posted photos of them and tagged them alongside hints of their involvement in so-called criminal acts. He works for criminals. I wonder what his wife thinks of it, it said. one of the employees. At the same time, workers began receiving inquiries from so-called investigative journalists who had been exposed to distributing information about them. At the same time, since October 2020, more than 1,000 videos and 300 anonymous sites have been distributed on YouTube and Facebook in the same spirit, as described here. Many of these videos have been distributed among SoftSwiss employees. At a more advanced stage, the campaign also began to terrorize SoftSwiss employees themselves. All traces of this campaign, the Belarusians claim in the lawsuit, lead to Bezov and his men. Megarishvili has admitted to hiring cyber company TCC in favor of hacking an intruder's phone and stealing documents, they explained, apart from Megarishvili. The Belarusians claim that Bezov and Alishko were active partners behind the scenes in defamation campaign, and that the court will present direct evidence of the defendants involved, led by Bezov, in the defamation campaign. One of the pieces of evidence attached to the lawsuit is a transcript of a recording of a conversation that took place between Bezov and a rabbi of his behalf, who allegedly served as a sort of arbitrator in a dispute with Yeshu. The recording, it was alleged, described a mask of physical threats made by the defendants against Yeshua. When Yeshua explicitly referred to an incident in which he said armed men came to his office to threaten him until he abandoned the legal proceedings against the defendants. According to the lawsuit, the Belarusians are demanding $3.3 million in compensation and an end to the violent attack they attribute to Bezov and his accomplices, in a way that will allow Belarusians to repair the served damage to their name and business. Bezos are also accused with violating many laws: the Privacy Protection Act, the Computer Act, the Wiretapping Act, the Defamation Prohibition Act, the Commercial Injustice Act, and the Penal Code with regard to the threats and extortion. Beyond damaging their good name, the Belarusians allege direct damage following the defamations after business partners severed ties with a SoftWise company and financial entities refused to work with them. The Belarusians further allege that they also suffered personal and family damages, mainly due to the defamation that prostitutes were involved, and due to the threat to spread their intimate images, which they said hovered over their heads non-stop. I spent lots of time making this video. If you like the video and want me to post more similar stories, click the like button and subscribe to the channel. See you later!